What popular D&D concept or attitude do you hate? For me, there are a few, but I hate fail forwards. I always see it suggested, but the idea that the party simply cannot actually fail, merely finding success through a different means, always frustrates me. The party fails to beat the dungeon boss. They wake up unrestrained in his prison cells under this castle, with a sleeping guard and all their gear still on. The party fails to track down the bandits that attack the merchant's caravan. They get approached by a very convenient stranger who just so happens to know where the bandits went and can guide them directly there. It's not necessarily the concept of having alternate paths to achieve your goals. It's when the DM consistently bails out the party. That kind of thing doesn't go unnoticed. As a DM, I don't plan a story or events that need to happen. There are simply things going on in the world, and the party can interact with them however they wish. If they mess up, then they mess up, and that's okay. If I wanted to determine what happens in the game without dice, I'd take them away and simply describe stuff happening. Coming from a forever DM, I hate the attitude that the DM is always right on rules. Please challenge me on rulings that I make. If you're confused, I want you to ask what you're confused about and have a conversation about it. Most of the time, it's an opportunity for me to explain the rules to someone who's confused, and now they know more. A good amount of time, I can clarify or correct my own rulings. I don't want to leave players feeling frustrated, thinking that I'm using the wrong rulings for their character and not allowing them to try and correct that. When I rarely do play, I dislike DMs who brush off rules questions. I understand the flow of the game and that the DM's word is final, but I've seen players correctly explain their class features and then be lied to by DMs about how it actually works. If someone speaks up about something, then it's okay to take 20 seconds to look it up. I do understand that some players can be overzealous in their questions, but you can ask them to save a lot of their questions for before or after the session, or invite them to look it up on their own during other people's turns. Don't just say, "No, it doesn't work like that," and stop asking. This is simply my preference as a DM and a player, but I think I don't like having the first time the characters meet scenario in session 1. It always feels forced. "Oh, you are also a bounty hunter? Let's be friends for life," type of thing. I much prefer, and already do as a DM, to just assume the characters are familiar with each other and have already banded together to chase a common goal. The community has overcorrected in regard to the phrase, "It's what my character would do." Obviously, people sometimes use it to justify doing bad stuff, sure, but some people act like using that phrase makes you a problem player automatically. I hate players whose interesting trait is that they cause problems for the party. They commit crimes against the wishes of the party. They steal from other party members. They have some special trait or weakness that causes them to be a constant burden on the party. They don't actually want to adventure, so the rest of the party is forced to constantly encourage and persuade them. I'll run the game in a setting that happens to not have X, so I don't allow X at character creation. I'm a bad DM. I wouldn't say I hate either concept or attitude, but there are two community buzzwords I find unhelpful: metagaming and action economy. Metagaming is unhelpful because everyone has a different definition of what is or isn't metagaming. It's always more helpful, especially for new players, to explain why a specific behavior at the table is disruptive or can negatively impact the game instead of just saying, "That's metagaming." Action economy is often used in very vague contexts. I'll see plenty of users on this subreddit say things like, "Combat in D&D is hard to balance because of the action economy." A sentence that can be true, but is completely useless to the often novice DMs asking questions where this is the answer when additional important context is omitted. An attitude I don't see anymore though, but was certainly popular earlier in 5th edition's lifespan, especially around 2017 to 2018, was recommending new DMs avoid the DMG. I never understood this attitude, especially considering how many common questions are answered and alternate rules are discussed in the 5th edition DMG. What made that era of 5th edition all the more bitter, in my view anyway, was how popular it was for folks, especially on YouTube, to present DMing advice that was straight out of the 5th edition DMG, despite themselves having significantly downplayed the importance of the DMG in general. Hate is a strong word. I don't hate anything. Hey, you know what? I agree with you. I like your attitude. Were I to wish for something, it would be that new players wouldn't expect their first DM is a master thespian. Given how many times Matt Mercer has said that Critical Role is not actually playing D&D by the rules, it shouldn't be the default expectation by anyone really paying attention. Said as someone who loves Critical Role and has run LARPs but has no interest in curating a theater group for a D&D session in order to satisfy a new player. It's fine, that one class can clone themselves, bend reality, and create tiny universes, while the other class can swing a sword 6 times. Yeah. Joke characters. I hate them with a passion. They ruin games and remove any and all motivation and interest I had for the campaign. I hate how railroading has become the evil boogeyman of the RPG world. Yes, there are bad examples of railroading. Yes, I'm glad your sandbox campaign has gone well. Good for you. A campaign can still have a pre-written plot and still be good. Campaign modules can be good. These days, railroading has become this terribly vaguely defined word that apparently can mean anything, and so all discussions about the topic become immediately useless. Folks just need to relax. Your ability to twist and contort the rules in such a way as to force 5th edition to play in a certain way does not mean that the system is designed to play that way. I can do nothing in World of Warcraft but get the cooking profession and spend my days buying ingredients and cooking things. But that doesn't make WoW a cooking game. The oversimplification. The two biggest offenders were the removal of feats and the removal of skill points, both with 5th edition. Removing feats took away a significant amount of character customization, and removing talent points just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, if I spend time training in lockpicking, I somehow become better at walking a tightrope? Or if I train in animal handling, I get better at medicine? In what world does that make sense? Well, I don't see it as much anymore, but in my 3.5 edition days, there was a very prevalent attitude of, "The law is the law." As an example, if the monster manual says something, you cannot ever deviate from that, or you're using your imagination wrong. A mind flayer who lives on the surface and makes a living working at the abattoir, subsisting on pig brains. Can't be done. They're always evil. Always evil. Pigs may be intelligent in the real world, but boars have an intelligence score of 2. So that means they're dumb as a bag of hammers, and mind flayers can't get sustenance from them. As I've said, I don't see this attitude much anymore. 5th edition players and DMs seem to value creative reimaginings and bending the rules more than the 3.5 players I encountered ever did. But it's something that I will argue against every single time I see it. I can't tell a good story with multiple combat encounters per long rest. Haha, my friends, I'm afraid the combat encounters have very little to do with it then. Don't get me wrong, I love roleplay. The story and the investment being built up by our interactions with NPCs are what gives the combat meaning. But man, am I getting sick of sessions where it's just 3.5 hours of just talking in character voices and largely meaningless conversations. and then finishing the session with a 2 or 3 round hyper-lethal combat before the quest or adventure is over. Too many people are getting caught up in the role-playing element and forgetting about the game element of a role-playing game, which is arguably the most important part. The example provided above is not actually a good balance of combat and roleplay, which is what most people tend to advertise in their LFG posts. Again, I neither need nor want every session to be a mega dungeon crawl, but if you're going to spend most of the session giving us the quest, right? It should at least take most of the next session to complete the quest. I'm a little skittish about the idea of making a character before knowing what campaign they're in. To be clear, I'm fine with people having concepts they want to explore or a particular set of mechanics. Now, what rubs me the wrong way is people who make a character and then say something like, I don't know, I'm looking for a campaign to play them in, and then don't make the effort to embed the character in the world of the campaign. To me, it's the inverse of a DM who just wants to write a book. To be interesting, the character needs to meaningfully integrate with the world, and making a too-complete character can mean there are fewer connections or more superficial connections available. D&D really fosters the idea of never making a suboptimal choice. This is most clearly seen in character creation and combat, since that's what most of the rules are built around. But not going after the big bad in combat because your character is narratively scared of them or whatever is going to mechanically translate to feeling like you're being punished. Same with doing XYZ in combat because it's in line with your character, but it's not the most optimal thing to do. I blame this on D&D's origins being rooted in war games, where you always try to make the optimal choice. Further, and worse, this translates to situations outside of combat too. I feel like the generally accepted social rule is that you shouldn't go against the party's accepted attitude towards solving a problem or interacting with an NPC, etc. By and large, I agree. Don't strike out on your own because you're playing an edgelord lone wolf, ooh. But I'm playing a character with flaws, and sometimes those flaws lead to different choices that can create, hopefully interesting, friction. I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling because of one incident where my DM killed an NPC that was important to my character and then tried to shuffle us along to the next plot beat without ceremony. I had to insist on dealing with the ramifications of a backstory NPC dying. My character's adventuring spirit was shattered. I was willing to give him up and play a different character too. Now, the choices I was making weren't too negatively disruptive, but my character had to go through an I don't know if I'm adventuring anymore moment, even though the optimal choice would have been to just go, damn that sucks, and just keep going. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and if you want to keep the lights on and the furnaces running this winter, make sure to join our membership program. You get early access to videos and sometimes outtakes. You will see about that. We love you all. See you next time. Toodaloo for now.